Chapter 3497. Lu Ming's victory did not affect the overall situation at all. Qiu Qingtian has won this battle. Qiu Qingtian, will you continue to challenge or take a break? The white-haired judge asked. I'll continue. Come out. Qiu Qingtian casually pointed at a young man. According to the rules, the loser should be the one to challenge the winner, but that was only if the winner did not continue to challenge the winner. If the winner continued to challenge the loser, he would still have the right to challenge the loser. The young man's face turned pale. Although he was one of the top few among the 9 general stars, he had yet to enter the Divine Lord realm. His combat power was much weaker than Zhu Dao's, and he was not on the same level as Qiu Qingtian. If you don't dare to fight, then admit defeat, Qiu Qingtian said coldly. Fight. Finally, the young man shouted and stepped forward, revealing a strong fighting spirit. Now, in front of everyone and the Taishu Sage Emperor, if he admitted defeat, his future would be over. Therefore, he could not admit defeat. Moreover, he guessed that Qiu Qingtian must have been exhausted in the battle with Zhu Dao. He might still have a chance. You have some guts, but unfortunately, your fate is sealed. Thunderous annihilation sword, Qiu Qingtian shouted, and the bead emitted more lightning. Qiu Qingtian transformed into a giant lightning sword and slashed at the prodigy from the Taishu dynasty. Sky Tiger splits the sky. The prodigy from the Taishu dynasty used all his strength to transform into a sky tiger. His tiger claws split the sky as he attacked Qiu Qingtian. Boom! The two sides collided heavily, and energy waves spread in all directions. Lightning filled the sky. However, in the next moment, a scream was heard. Then, a figure flew out of the fighting stage like a shooting star and crashed to the ground. This figure was not Qiu Qingtian, but the prodigy from the Taishu dynasty. His body was charred black, and after crashing to the ground, he twitched a few times and stopped breathing. He was dead. A peerless genius had been killed in an instant. Damn it! The people from the Taishu sacred dynasty were enraged, especially the family members of that prodigy. They were furious. You overestimated yourself. This is your fate if you don't admit defeat, Qiu Qingtian sneered. You're too ruthless. Someone from the Taishu dynasty roared. Life and death are not guaranteed in this competition. If you are killed, you can only be considered weak. If you are afraid of death, you can just admit defeat. Tianyi Saint Emperor smiled faintly. He was in a very good mood. He was definitely going to win this competition. Moreover, he would be able to suppress the Taishu dynasty and obtain a treasure that was not inferior to the soul-nurturing flower from the Taishu Saint Emperor. Qiu Qingtian, do you want to continue the challenge or take a break? The white-haired referee asked again. Continue fighting, Qiu Qingtian said, then glanced at Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming's group originally had 7 people. Now that one was dead and one was injured, there were only 5 left. Other than Lu Ming, the other 4 turned pale when Qiu Qingtian's gaze swept past them. Qiu Qingtian's gaze swept past Lu Ming, directly ignoring him. In his opinion, he did not know Lu Ming at all. Although he won the previous round, it was also because of luck, the element of surprise, and Qi Gaoyi's carelessness. He did not take Lu Ming seriously. In the end, his gaze fell on one of the 9 general stars and said, "Come out and fight me." The general who had been challenged paled. The scene of that prodigy being killed was still flashing in front of his eyes. Do you accept the challenge or admit defeat? Qiu Qingtian said with a playful smile. I admit defeat. In the end, that prodigy from the Taishu dynasty shook his head and chose to admit defeat. Even if the Saint Emperor saw it clearly, even if the others saw it clearly, he did not care and chose to admit defeat. It was better to be looked down upon than to be killed directly. He knew very well that with his strength, there was a 90% chance that he would be killed if he fought with Qiu Qingtian. How could he continue fighting? Of course, he would admit defeat directly. Ha ha ha. Tianyi Saint Emperor laughed loudly, while the Taishu Saint Emperor's face turned even uglier. Today, not only did he not get the soul-nourishing flower, but he also lost all his face. In this way, there were only 4 people left from the Taishu dynasty. Next, you. Come out and fight me. Qiu Qingtian continued to challenge and pointed at a young man. That young man shook his head and chose to admit defeat. There was no need to continue fighting. He was definitely no match for Qiu Qingtian. He would only be courting death if he went up. In this way, there were only 3 people left. Qiu Qingtian continued to challenge, and the next person also admitted defeat. In this way, there were only Lu Ming and a young man in a white robe left. Qiu Qingtian, are you still going to challenge? The white-haired judge asked. No, it's boring. All of you are cowards. I'll leave 2 of you for the others to play with. Qiu Qingtian shook his head and did not continue to challenge. Instead, he retreated. In his opinion, there was no point. If he continued to challenge, all of them would definitely surrender again. It was too boring. He might as well leave 2 of them for the others to play with. Alright, next, it's the Taishu dynasty's turn to challenge. The white-haired judge announced. Lu Ming had been challenged before, so it was naturally another young man in a white robe's turn. The young man in a white robe stepped out and came to the middle of the fighting ring. He was really relieved. If Qiu Qingtian continued to challenge him, he could only admit defeat. He did not expect that Qiu Qingtian would not continue to challenge him. In this way, he had a chance to show off. No matter what, he had to perform well in the next battle. Feng Qi, come down and fight. The young man in a white robe looked at a young man from the Tianyi sacred dynasty. You dare to challenge me? Very well, we have fought once before and there was no clear winner. This time, I will definitely defeat you. The young man from the Tianyi sacred dynasty called Feng Qi said coldly. He stepped out and landed in the middle of the fighting ring. Boom! Boom! Without any superfluous words, the 2 of them started to fight fiercely. The battle was intense. Their strength was similar. They were both in the peak divine king realm with origin divine power factor and 4 awakenings. Needless to say, they were both peerless geniuses and their combat strength was similar. In this battle, the 2 of them exchanged more than 500 blows. It was extremely tragic. In the end, both of them were injured. They were covered in blood and their clothes were tattered. In the end, both of them fell down at the same time. The 2 of them fought until they were exhausted. In this battle, both of them were injured and they were evenly matched. In this way, Lu Ming was the only one left in the Taishu dynasty. Sigh, he is bound to lose. Let's end this quickly. Many people from the Taishu dynasty sighed. Previously, it was the Taishu dynasty's turn to challenge. In the previous battle, both of them were injured. Naturally, it was the Tianyi sacred dynasty's turn to challenge. Leave this brat to me. I want to see if he's faster than me. A genius from the Tianyi sacred dynasty spoke and then flashed out. Rather than continuing to fail, it would be better to end this quickly and end this torture. According to the rules, it's the Tianyi sacred dynasty's turn to challenge. The white-robed judge said. Chapter 3498. Lu Ming stepped out and came to the middle of the fighting ring. Boy, your speed is not bad. But compared to me, you are still a little slower. You will be defeated. The genius from the Tianyi sacred dynasty sneered. He was from the Wing Men clan and had a pair of green wings on his back. As soon as he finished speaking, he flapped his wings and turned into a bolt of lightning, rushing toward Lu Ming. In the process of rushing out, his body swayed and turned into multiple phantoms, surrounding Lu Ming. There were a total of 32 phantoms, and it was hard to tell which one was the real one. Ha ha ha, boy, have you seen my speed? Now you know the gap between us. With your speed, you can't even touch a hair on my head. Ha ha. The youth from the Wing Men clan laughed arrogantly. Who said that I want to compete with you in speed? Lu Ming said lightly. He clenched his fist and the overbearing god spear appeared in his hand. Is this the secret skill of origin? How is that possible? Many people's eyes widened, especially those from the Tianyi sacred dynasty. Origin source secret techniques naturally wouldn't shock these people. However, it was shocking for a person to possess 2 origin source secret techniques. Lu Ming had clearly displayed the Wind Destroyer boots in the previous battle. Now, he had displayed the overbearing god spear. It was obvious that he had 2 secret skills of origin. Could it be that Lu Ming had cultivated the ancient cultivation method? Just as many people had this thought, Lu Ming made his move. Lu Ming swept out directly. The huge spear radiance filled the fighting ring and enveloped the entire fighting ring. You are. The youth from the Wing Men clan suddenly shouted in shock. Isn't Lu Ming good at speed? Why isn't he playing according to common sense? He wanted to resist, but it was too late. The huge spear radiance swept across and the phantoms exploded. No matter how many phantoms there were, no matter how fast they were, Lu Ming had already enveloped the entire fighting ring under his attack. Bang bang bunga series of explosions resounded as the 36 phantoms exploded in an instant. The young man from the Winged Men race screamed as he was blown away by the spear. He was like a cannonball as he was blown out of the fighting stage and smashed into the ground. He was half dead. The youth of the Winged Men clan was defeated in one move. He won again. This time, even the people of the Taishu dynasty were stunned. In this competition, the Taishu dynasty had only won 2 matches, and both of them had been won by Lu Ming. This was simply unbelievable. The people of the Tianyi sacred dynasty were also stunned. This kid is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. His true strength is very strong. Finally, one of the geniuses from the Tianyi sacred dynasty spoke up. His expression was grave. To be able to easily defeat 2 prodigies in a row, even a fool would know that Lu Ming's strength was not weak, but very strong. Below the fighting ring, the crown prince and the state preceptor looked gloomy. Seeing that Lu Ming was in the limelight, they were very unhappy. It doesn't matter. If this kid continues to challenge, he will be courting death when he meets the divine emperors of the other side. Maybe he will be killed by them. The state preceptor secretly transmitted his voice to the crown prince. That's right. It may be a good thing that this kid can win a few matches. The crown prince also nodded secretly. They were still hoping that Lu Ming would meet the divine emperors of the Tianyi sacred dynasty. In that case, they might not need to do anything and Lu Ming would be killed. Lu Ming, who are you going to challenge next? The white-robed judge asked. Now, only Lu Ming was left. Lu Ming had won, so he could only continue to challenge him. Lu Ming pointed at a young man from the other side, who was not in the divine emperor realm. If he wanted to win, he had to defeat everyone on the other side. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to challenge them one by one. It was the same to leave the divine emperors behind. The young man who was challenged by Lu Ming stepped out of the crowd and came in front of Lu Ming. However, the young man did not dare to be careless now. He stared at Lu Ming with a solemn face. Kill. Suddenly, the young man attacked. He attacked with all his strength. The origin source secret technique, with the support of strong divine power, was extremely powerful. It attacked Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming simply waved his spear. At that moment, Lu Ming had already activated the battle character art to quadruple his combat strength. In addition to his 11 types of divine power, it was extremely powerful. He could easily crush those of the same level. Not everyone was like Di Jenny. Although these prodigies were strong, they were 100 streets away from Lu Ming in a battle of the same level. Boom! The overbearing god spear rolled over, and the genius of the Tianyi sacred dynasty screamed. His attack and defense were all destroyed. He felt as if he had been hit by a mountain, and he was almost flattened. His whole body flew out of the fighting ring, and he vomited blood. He was half dead. Instant kill. Another instant kill. The scene fell into silence. Everyone stared at Lu Ming. Their eyes were shining. Another instant kill. Occasionally, they could say it was luck. But now, it had happened 3 times. This was not luck. It was strength. Overwhelming strength. One should know that Lu Ming's opponents were not weak. The top prodigies of the Tianyi sacred dynasty were like the 9 generals in the Taishu dynasty. Such people were killed in an instant. How strong was Lu Ming? Tianyi sacred emperor and the remaining prodigies of the Tianyi sacred dynasty looked solemn. Great. Taishu sacred emperor could not help but shout. His eyes, which were full of despair, were filled with hope again. With Lu Ming's combat strength, he might be able to create a miracle. The Crown Prince and the State Preceptor looked gloomy. The two of them looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Could it be that Di Jenny was really defeated by Lu Ming? Di Jenny, come here. The Crown Prince sent a voice transmission to Di Jenny. In a flash, Di Jenny appeared behind the Crown Prince. Di Jenny, what's going on? Why is Lu Ming not dead? Could it be that you did not touch him? The Crown Prince sent a voice transmission to Di Jenny. Crown Prince, State Preceptor, we have underestimated Lu Ming. Di Jenny replied. What do you mean? The Crown Prince and the State Preceptor were shocked. I have lost. Di Jenny only said these 3 words and did not say anything else. What? The State Preceptor and the Crown Prince were shocked. They were all too clear about how talented and sick Di Jenny was. Jing Yu was known as the most outstanding prodigy in the history of the Taishu dynasty. However, compared to Di Jenny, there was still a gap. Yes, in their hearts, Jing Yu could not be compared to Di Jenny. However, right now, Emperor Jenny had been defeated by Lu Ming. What did this mean? Lu Ming's talent was number 1 in the history of the Taishu dynasty. Damn it, D***mn. The Crown Prince roared in his heart. Di Jenny's strength was extremely terrifying. Even the person who was ranked number 1 among the 9 general stars might not be a match for Di Jenny. Did that mean that Lu Ming could defeat Qiu Qingtian? Defeat everyone in the Qiani sacred dynasty and help Taishu sacred emperor get the soul-nourishing flower? Chapter 3499. No, no. The Crown Prince roared in his heart. His eyes were red. He could not accept this. If the Taishu sacred emperor obtained the soul-nourishing flower and increased his lifespan by half a stellar year, he would have to wait for another half a stellar year. He had waited for countless years. He could not wait any longer. If the Taishu sacred emperor made a breakthrough in the future, he would never be able to sit on the throne of the sacred emperor. In his heart, he wanted to kill Lu Ming. He could not wait to cut Lu Ming into pieces. What's wrong? The Taishu sacred emperor felt that something was wrong with the Crown Prince and glanced at him coldly. No, nothing. Father, I'm just excited to see how powerful Lu Ming is. The Crown Prince's face changed and he quickly answered. Is that so? The Great Void Saint Emperor said plainly. Hehe, you do have some skills. Unfortunately, your cultivation is only in the 9th Divine King realm. You're still lacking in terms of cultivation. It's hard for you to fight against a Divine Lord realm genius. The Qiani sacred emperor's eyes flickered a few times before he sneered. To be honest, he was shocked by Lu Ming's strength. A wisp of killing intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. Such a powerful genius would be terrifying when he grew up. He might even be an invincible figure at the peak of the Divine Lord realm. The stronger the Taishu dynasty was, the worse it would be for the Qiani sacred dynasty. Is that so? Then let's continue to watch, the Taishu dynasty's leader said. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Lu Ming, who are you going to challenge next? The white-haired judge asked. Lu Ming swept his gaze over them. Originally, the Qiani sacred dynasty had a total of 9 geniuses. Previously, because both sides were injured, one of them was eliminated. Now, 3 of them were defeated by Lu Ming. There were only 5 left. Among them, there were 2 Divine Lord realm geniuses. Lu Ming intended to deal with these 2 later. He would deal with the 3 Divine Kings first. Anyway, he had to deal with them. You. Lu Ming pointed at the genius. The genius's face turned pale. Previously, there was a genius whose strength was not inferior to his, but he was defeated by Lu Ming in one move. If he went up, he would probably be killed in an instant. Let's go all out and exhaust every bit of his divine power. A voice suddenly rang out in the young man's ears. It was Saint Lord Qiani's voice. The young man's expression changed. He originally wanted to surrender, but now he couldn't. Clearly, Qiani Saint Emperor did not allow for failure. He wanted to use them to exhaust Lu Ming's divine power to ensure that Qiu Qingtian and the others would definitely win. Fight. The young man gritted his teeth and stepped forward, landing in front of Lu Ming. Then, he unleashed all of his power and used all of his techniques. In the eyes of the other young people present, this young man was very strong. He was so strong that it was terrifying. But in Lu Ming's eyes, it was very weak. Boom! The tyrant god's spear blasted out, breaking all techniques with one strike. No matter what kind of technique or secret technique it would be crushed by the spear. Then, with a scream, the young man was sent flying. It was still an instant kill. Then, he continued to challenge, and it was still an instant kill. Soon, Lu Ming won 3 rounds in a row. In this way, a total of 6 geniuses of the Qianni sacred dynasty were defeated by Lu Ming. There were only 2 geniuses of the Qianni sacred dynasty left on the scene. These 2 people were both in the Divine Lord realm. One of them was Qiu Qingtian, and the other was the second-ranked genius of the Qianni sacred dynasty's younger generation called Yunji. It's finally the last 2 people. The last 2 people are both in the Divine Lord realm. Is Lu Ming a match for them? It's hard to say. A Divine Lord is much stronger than a Divine King. Moreover, those 2 people are both peerless geniuses. That's right. They are both peerless geniuses. A Divine Lord realm genius can easily kill a Divine King realm genius. Lu Ming may not be a match for them. At the scene, many people were discussing. Indeed, they were all peerless geniuses. Whether it was Qiu Qingtian or Yunji, they could easily kill those people that Lu Ming had just defeated. Therefore, without fighting, it was difficult to guess who was stronger and who was weaker. The Taishu Sacred Emperor also became nervous. Of course, the Crown Prince was also extremely nervous. One was afraid of losing, and the other was afraid of winning. Lu Ming, who are you going to challenge next? The white-haired judge asked. No need to trouble yourself. Let the 2 of them come at me together, Lu Ming said. What? As soon as these words came out, the scene fell into silence. Lu Ming actually wanted to challenge Qiu Qingtian and Yunji at the same time. Was he crazy? Or was he too arrogant? Lu Ming, what are you doing? The Taishu Sacred Emperor suddenly stood up and roared. This battle was related to the soul-nurturing flower and his lifespan. It was not a child's play, and absolutely no mistakes were allowed. Brother Jing, why are you so agitated? How they challenge is the young people's business. We just have to watch. The young people are confident, so we can't suppress them. The Qianni Sacred Emperor's voice sounded, and then he said, you are free to challenge them. If you want to challenge both of them at the same time, you can. If Lu Ming wanted to challenge both of them at the same time, he would be more than happy. Lu Ming, you have to think carefully. The Taishu Sacred Emperor said coldly. Sacred Emperor, don't worry. There is no difference between 2 of them and 1 of them. I am confident. Lu Ming said with a smile. He was very clear about Qiu Qingtian's combat strength, and he was really confident. When Lu Ming had just come out of the primordial divine spirit world, he was already able to fight a barbarian tribe 2nd layer divine lord to a draw. At that time, Lu Ming's cultivation was only in the 8th layer divine king realm. As for Qiu Qingtian, even if he used his full strength, he could at most fight a 2nd layer divine lord, and he would most likely lose. Therefore, even if Lu Ming was in the 8th layer divine king realm, he would not be afraid of Qiu Qingtian, let alone now that he had broken through to the 9th layer divine king realm. Even if Yunji was added, it would be the same. Lu Ming was very confident, but in the eyes of others, it was arrogance. He is too arrogant. Who does he think he is? He is just a divine king. It is already incredible for a divine king to fight a divine lord, and he wants to fight 2 of them. Moreover, they are 2 top geniuses. This is absolutely impossible. It is completely impossible. Looks like his previous consecutive victories and instant kills of his opponents have inflated his self-confidence to no end. Hehe, it will be fun to embarrass himself later. The people of the Qianni sacred dynasty sneered. However, the people of the Taishu dynasty did not say anything. Many people of the Taishu dynasty knew Lu Ming well. Lu Ming was a new batch of students of the Taishu Imperial Family Holy Academy. How many years had it been? Lu Ming's cultivation had already reached the peak divine king realm. This in itself was incredible. Therefore, even if Lu Ming could defeat Qiu Qingtian and Yunji, they would not think that it was impossible. Alright, Since you are confident, it is up to you. I only have one condition, and that is to win. You must win. The Taishu Sacred Emperor said coldly. Yes. Lu Ming nodded and looked at Qiu Qingtian and Yunji. Chapter 3500. Qiu Qingtian and Yunji looked gloomy. Lu Ming dared to challenge the two of them alone. In their eyes, he was looking down on them. Since he wants to challenge us alone, let's fulfill his wish. Let him stay here forever. Yunji's eyes were cold and his voice was icy. That's exactly what I wanted. A divine king is too arrogant. Qiu Qingtian said coldly. Boom. Boom. Their auras burst out at the same time. The auras of first-level divine lords formed a terrifying pressure that pressed down on Lu Ming. Then, the two of them attacked at the same time. Qiu Qingtian's body was covered with lightning and formed a lightning sword that slashed at Lu Ming. Yunji pointed his finger and a golden finger that was covered with runes suddenly appeared. It was glowing brightly and it was pointed at Lu Ming. It was a terrifying secret technique. Their attacks instantly closed in on Lu Ming. The two of them were first-level divine lords. Even if they did not use their full strength, they could easily kill an ordinary first-level divine lord. As for those below the divine lord level, it was needless to say. Boom. At that moment, Lu Ming's body shook slightly again and his aura became stronger. Battle character art, 5 times combat strength, activated. Then, the Overlord God Spear shook and 2 spear radiances shot out, colliding with Qiu Qingtian and Yunji's attacks. 2 loud bangs erupted and the entire fighting ring was shaking. Of course, the battle stage was covered with runes, so the chi from their battle would be blocked and unable to disperse. After the 2 bangs, the attacks from both sides dissipated at the same time. He blocked it. Many people's hearts were beating wildly. Lu Ming had really blocked Qiu Qingtian and Yunji's attacks. This was unbelievable. The people from the Taishu dynasty were overjoyed. However, the people from the Tiani sacred dynasty looked gloomy. Tumpiech, didn't you see that Qiu Qingtian and Yunji did not use their full strength? They did not use their origin source secret techniques and Lu Ming has already used his origin source secret technique. He has already used his full strength. It's obvious who is stronger. That's right. As long as Qiu Qingtian and Yunji use their full strength, Lu Ming will definitely lose. The people of the Tiani sacred dynasty spoke one after another. Under normal circumstances, using an origin source secret technique was equivalent to using one's full strength. Even Qiu Qingtian and Yunji thought so. You're Lu Ming, right? Is this all you've got? You dare to challenge the two of us? I alone can suppress you. That's right, I've only used 80% of my strength, and I haven't even used my primary secret technique yet. It's time to send you on your way. Qiu Qingtian and Yunji coldly laughed. Their auras grew even stronger. After that, they both used their source secret arts, pushing their combat prowess to the peak. Yunji's origin secret technique was a strange bronze finger that emitted an ancient and desolate aura. This bronze finger fused with Yunji's finger, causing his finger to emit a resplendent radiance. Kill! Yunji shouted and pointed his finger at Lu Ming. A huge finger that looked like the finger of a primordial deity pointed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved the Overlord God Spear and blasted it forward. The huge spear radiance collided with the finger. There was a loud boom, and energy overflowed. Lu Ming's body shook violently, and he retreated rapidly. He only stopped when he reached the edge of the fighting ring. Lu Ming is about to lose. Many people had the same thought in their minds. Haha, with your strength, you're overestimating yourself. Yunji laughed. Is this your full strength? At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly asked. What do you mean? My strength is enough to kill you 10 times over. Yunji sneered. Is that so? If that's all you have, then this battle is over. Lu Ming said indifferently. Then, he placed the Overlord God Spear in front of him. In the next moment, a terrifying aura burst out from the Overlord God Spear. A dazzling spear radiance shot up into the sky and pierced through the clouds. The scene was silent at first, and then there was an uproar. This is. Sever the shackles. His origin secret technique has severed the shackles. Oh my god. At this moment, not only the ordinary people, but many old monsters were also shocked. Their eyes were wide open, and they could not calm down. Even the Taishu Sacred Emperor and the Tianyi Sacred Emperor stood up in shock. A 9th-level Divine King Realm cultivator who could awaken the origin secret technique at such a young age was already a peerless genius. As for severing the shackles, that was even more unimaginable. Now, no matter if it was the Taishu dynasty or the Tianyi Sacred Dynasty, none of the strongest geniuses had severed the shackles. So far, Lu Ming was the first. The Crown Prince and the Imperial Advisor looked gloomy, but they were not too surprised. After all, Lu Ming had defeated Di Jenny. They knew that Lu Ming must have severed the shackles of the origin secret technique. Yunji and Qiu Qingtian's eyes were wide open, and they were filled with disbelief. They also wanted to sever the shackles, but they had failed countless times. But Lu Ming, who was only a 9th-level Divine King Realm cultivator, had succeeded. This made them envious and jealous. Come on. Lu Ming pointed his spear at Qiu Qingtian and Yunji. So what if you have severed the shackles? You are only a 9th-level Divine King Realm cultivator. How can you fight against us? Kill! Qiu Qingtian and Yunji shouted. They moved and charged at Lu Ming like meteorites. Qiu Qingtian's bead emitted endless lightning, and it even turned into a lightning enchantment that enveloped Lu Ming. It turned into a lightning sword and charged at Lu Ming. Yunji shouted. His finger glowed and pointed at Lu Ming. An even more terrifying finger pointed at Lu Ming. Wang. Lu Ming waved his Overlord God spear. Instantly, 2 spear radiances shot out, as if they could shatter the void. Both sides' attacks collided, and the battle stage shook violently. This time, Lu Ming did not retreat. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his spear radiance was like a dragon. Not only did he block Qiu Qingtian and Yunji's attacks, he even destroyed their attacks. The two of them retreated a few steps, and their faces were ugly. Damn it! Die! The two of them roared. They could not accept that they were still not Lu Ming's match even after joining forces. It was obvious that Qiu Qingtian and Yunji had cultivated secret physique techniques. Qiu Qingtian's secret physique technique should be related to lightning. However, their secret physique technique was not very mature. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that it was not even comparable to the 5th transformation of the primordial divine body. Yunji's secret physique technique was similar to Qiu Qingtian's. Qiu Qingtian's body was covered with endless lightning, as if his entire body had turned into lightning. His muscles, bones, and blood were all made of lightning. Secret physique technique? Lu Ming muttered. Chapter 3501. Of course, after using the secret body constitution technique, their strength had also increased. Once again, they charged towards Lu Ming. This time, the two of them were fighting against Lu Ming. For a moment, it was hard to determine the winner. On the huge fighting stage, the three of them were constantly clashing and killing each other. It was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, the three of them had already exchanged over 100 blows. The scene was silent. Everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared at the fighting stage. The main reason was that they were too shocked. They were shocked by Lu Ming's strength. A 9th-layer Divine King could actually fight against 2 1st-layer Divine Monarch peerless geniuses. This was too inconceivable. It was like a fantasy story. Tianyi Sacred Emperor's face was extremely gloomy. On the other hand, Taishu Sacred Emperor's eyes were filled with anticipation. Previously, he had already given up hope. He thought that the two countries would most likely lose this battle. He had never expected Lu Ming to suddenly appear and display such shocking strength. It was greatly out of his expectations. It seemed like there was hope for him to win. As long as he won, he would be able to obtain the soul-nourishing flower. Thinking of this, he was extremely excited. Ah, damn it. Kill, kill, kill. Qiu Qingtian and Yunji roared crazily as they fought. Their attacks were like a storm. They could not lose. If the two of them were not a match for a 9th-layer Divine King, they would become a laughingstock. They could not accept this fact. The two of them pushed their combat strength to the maximum. However, no matter how they attacked, Lu Ming was still able to block them. "All right, it's about time to end this," Lu Ming muttered. Then, he started to control the primordial divine blood in his heart. Of course, this time, Lu Ming did not unleash the full power of the primordial divine blood. He only unleashed a portion of it. Even so, Lu Ming's body was suddenly filled with explosive power, causing his strength to increase tremendously. Buzz! The overbearing god spear shook and turned into a huge spear radiance, sweeping across the battlefield. Boom! Qiu Qingtian's lightning swords exploded and shattered. Then, as the overbearing god spear swept across, Qiu Qingtian's lightning barrier also exploded. Qiu Qingtian's face changed drastically. He groaned and retreated. Dang! In the next moment, the tyrant god spear struck Yunji's finger. His finger immediately shattered. Yunji's expression changed drastically. At that moment, he felt that his finger was about to break. His body retreated rapidly. His finger trembled incessantly and blood seeped out. Your power?" Qiu Qingtian and Yunji widened their eyes and stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. The people around them were similar to them. They were also dumbfounded. A very old monster spoke. "Now, I'll finish you off," Lu Ming said coldly. He took a step forward. Like a human-shaped dragon, he rushed forward. The overbearing god spear smashed down. It turned into layers of spear shadows, covering Qiu Qingtian and Yunji. Qiu Qingtian and Yunji shouted and tried their best to resist. However, Lu Ming's power was above theirs. When the two sides collided, their bodies retreated. Their faces were pale and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Lu Ming did not stop attacking. He continued to charge toward them. His attacks were endless. After a dozen moves, Qiu Qingtian and Yunji screamed. They were hit by Lu Ming. They vomited blood and flew out of the fighting ring. They fell heavily on the ground. They were seriously injured. Of course, Lu Ming was being merciful. If Lu Ming used all the power of the primordial divine blood, it would not be difficult to kill them. Qiu Qingtian and Yunji were defeated. The scene was deathly silent, especially the people of the Tianyi sacred dynasty. Their minds were blank. They thought they were dreaming. Qiu Qingtian and Yunji were the two strongest heavenly geniuses of the Tianyi sacred dynasty. They were invincible. In the Tianyi sacred dynasty, they were like two mountains that pressed down on the heads of countless young people. They were the goal of all the young people. They were also the idols of all the young people. However, two of such strong heavenly geniuses had been defeated by a ninth divine king layer cultivator. It was a huge blow to them. Good. After a while, many people reacted. The people of the Taishu dynasty cheered loudly. They were incomparably excited. They had won the battle. Of course they were excited. "Ha ha ha, Tianyi, you let me win." The Taishu sacred emperor laughed. He was incomparably excited. Damn it, damn it, damn it. On the side of the Taishu dynasty, the crown prince was the angriest. He was shouting madly in his heart. His eyes were incomparably ferocious. He couldn't wait to chop Lu Ming into pieces. Originally, he had planned everything perfectly. This time, the Taishu dynasty couldn't win. But now, because of Lu Ming, the Taishu dynasty had won. All his plans and efforts had gone up in smoke. The Taishu sacred emperor would obtain the soul-nourishing flower and his lifespan would increase by half a stellar year. If he broke through in the future, he would probably be a crown prince until he died of old age. He was indignant. He was extremely indignant. At this moment, his hatred for Lu Ming was overwhelming. The imperial preceptor's face was also incomparably ugly. Of course, the Tianyi sacred emperor's face was also ugly. Good, good, good. I didn't expect that such a monster would appear in the Taishu dynasty. I really didn't expect that the Taishu dynasty would have such a great opportunity. In the past, there was Jingyu, and now there is Lu Ming. Hee hee. The Tianyi sacred emperor sneered, looking at Lu Ming with deep fear in his eyes. Lu Ming's talent was too terrifying. In the future, it was very likely that he would take a crucial step, break through the barrier of the Divine Lord realm and step into a higher level. Once that happened, it would be very fatal for the Tianyi sacred dynasty. It would break the balance. In the past, Jingyu was said to have such a hope. Unfortunately, he died. And now, Lu Ming obviously had such a hope. Tianyi, you lost. Hand over the soul-nourishing flower, the Taishu sacred emperor shouted, staring at Tianyi with great anticipation. Fine, I'll give it to you. Brother Jing, although the soul-nourishing flower can increase your lifespan by half a stellar year, it's impossible for you to break through to the next realm. At most, you can live for another half a stellar year. Tianyi sneered. You don't have to worry about this. The Taishu sacred emperor said coldly, his face ugly. His lifespan was his greatest taboo. If the one who said this wasn't the Tianyi sacred emperor, he would have slapped him to death. Chapter 3502. Tianyi Saint Emperor sneered. With a wave of his hand, a jade box appeared in his hand. When he opened the jade box, one could see a pitch-black flower inside. The flower was pitch-black, but it emitted a sparkling luster and a rich fragrance. Many people felt their souls tremble when they smelled this fragrance. It was as though their soul power had become much purer. Is this the soul-nurturing flower? It's indeed a peerless treasure. Many people's eyes lit up. If an ordinary person obtained this soul-nurturing flower and refined it, their soul power would also increase greatly. It was a peerless treasure with immeasurable value. Of course, they were just thinking about it. The soul-nurturing flower was now the treasure of the Great Void Saint Emperor. Who would dare to have such thoughts? Quickly cover it. The Great Void Saint Emperor hurriedly shouted. If the soul-nurturing flower was exposed outside, its medicinal properties would slowly evaporate. Every time it evaporated, the medicinal effects would decrease by a little. If it evaporated a little, it might reduce his lifespan by a few years. Naturally, he was very concerned about it. Tianyi Saint Emperor smiled and closed the lid. Liu Shi, go and get the soul-nurturing flower. The Great Void Saint Emperor waved his hand and asked a close official beside him to get the soul-nurturing flower. As the Great Void Saint Emperor, he naturally couldn't go and get it himself. Yes, Your Majesty. The close official, Liu Shi, was a white-haired old man. He bowed and then flew towards Tianyi Saint Emperor. Tianyi Saint Emperor revealed a pained expression. Then, he waved his hand and the jade box flew towards Liu Shi. Liu Shi took it and flew towards the Great Void Saint Emperor. However, halfway there, he suddenly stopped. Liu Shi, what are you doing? Why aren't you bringing it over? The Great Void Saint Emperor urged. He was already a little impatient. However, Liu Shi didn't move. Instead, he revealed a strange smile and opened the jade box. Liu Shi, what are you doing? The Great Void Saint Emperor roared. Nothing. I just want to destroy the soul-nurturing flower. Liu Shi smiled. Then, his divine power burst out and bombarded the jade box. As the close official of the Great Void Saint Emperor, Liu Shi's strength was also shockingly strong. He had reached the 8th level of the Divine Lord realm. His divine power was so strong that the jade box and soul-nurturing flower in his hand exploded, turning into powder and dissipating in the air. The scene became silent all of a sudden. Everyone was stunned and looked at Liu Shi in a daze. This included the Taishu Saint Emperor, the Tianyi Saint Emperor, and Lu Ming. This scene was completely out of their expectations. Liu Shi had actually destroyed the soul-nourishing flower. The Crown Prince and the State Preceptor were also dumbfounded. This was completely beyond their expectations. Although they wanted to destroy the soul-nourishing flower, they didn't dare to. This was the lifespan of the Taishu Saint Emperor. If it was destroyed, the Taishu Saint Emperor would definitely go crazy. No one could withstand the madness of the Taishu Saint Emperor. Yes, the Taishu Saint Emperor had truly gone mad. At this moment, the Taishu Saint Emperor's body started to tremble violently. His eyes turned red as a terrifying icy aura emanated from his body. All of a sudden, the atmosphere became incomparably oppressive. Liu Shi. A beast-like roar came out of the Taishu Saint Emperor's mouth. It was filled with terrifying killing intent. Whoosh. At this moment, Liu Shi did not stop in the slightest. His body shot up into the sky. His speed was frighteningly fast. Those who were not Sir Gods could not see Liu Shi's speed clearly at all. However, the Taishu Saint Emperor was even faster. Originally, the Taishu Saint Emperor looked like an old man in his twilight years. At this moment, he was like an ancient god that had come back to life. A terrifying aura erupted from his body. His body shot out and chased after Liu Shi at a frightening speed. The distance between the two of them was rapidly closing. Liu Shi, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. The Taishu Saint Emperor roared. Violent energy surged out like a torrential storm. Even someone as strong as Liu Shi, an 8th-level divine lord, felt a chill run down his spine at this moment. It was as if he would turn into ashes in the next moment. Not good. Liu Shi's expression changed drastically. His body and mind were trembling. It was as if he would be destroyed in the next moment. He understood that the difference between him and the Taishu Saint Emperor was too great. An 8th-level Sir God was definitely a top-notch expert in the Taishu dynasty. Even the heavenly kings of the heavenly kings' palaces did not have such cultivation. However, compared to the Taishu Saint Emperor, the difference was like heaven and earth. The Taishu Saint Emperor was already at the limit of the Sir God realm. He was half a step into the next realm. Boom! The Taishu Saint Emperor's withered hand reached out, and an incomparably huge palm that blotted out the sky grabbed at Liu Shi. This palm covered over 100 million miles. It was too huge. The terrifying energy completely sealed Liu Shi. Liu Shi exploded with his full strength, but it was useless. He had already been sealed by the energy, and it was even difficult for him to breathe. At this moment, he truly understood the difference between him and the Taishu Saint Emperor. He was incomparably terrified. Barbarian Emperor, save me. Boom. As soon as Liu Shi finished speaking, the space above Liu Shi suddenly fluctuated. A huge fist suddenly appeared and slammed into the Great Void Saint Emperor's palm, causing a terrifying explosion. At this moment, the entire Taishu Saint capital seemed to tremble violently. The Taishu Saint capital was an incomparably huge ancient city that was like a planet. At this moment, it was trembling violently, as if it was about to explode. However, in the next moment, countless runes appeared in all directions of the Taishu Saint capital, forming a huge array that dissipated the energy. The Taishu Saint capital had been passed down for countless years, and the array on it was not to be underestimated. Even an existence like the Taishu Saint Emperor would not be able to break it in an instant. The energy surged wildly, and the huge palm that the Taishu Saint Emperor had formed finally collapsed. Liu Shi was overjoyed. Like a shooting star, he instantly shot out tens of millions of miles. In just a few breaths' time, Liu Shi and the Taishu Saint Emperor had already rushed into the starry sky. And in front of Liu Shi, a burly figure appeared. This figure was more than 3 meters tall, and he had a strong physique. His entire body was filled with muscles, and he was filled with explosive power. Just by standing there, he gave off a feeling that he was as heavy as a mountain, and that he was indestructible and could destroy everything. Barbarian Emperor. The Imperial Advisor muttered, and he was shocked. Barbarian Emperor. Everyone at the scene was shocked to the core. The Barbarian Emperor was the emperor of the barbarian race. He was the sovereign of the barbarian race. The Barbarian Emperor and the Taishu Saint Emperor were sworn enemies. Why would the Barbarian Emperor suddenly appear? Could it be that Liu Shi was instructed by the Barbarian Emperor? Judging from the scene just now, it was very likely. Barbarian Emperor. Liu Shi was overjoyed when he saw the Barbarian Emperor. He quickly flew behind the Barbarian Emperor and heaved a long sigh of relief. He felt that his entire body was drenched in cold sweat. Barbarian Emperor. The Taishu Saint Emperor's eyes were bloodshot, and they were filled with violent killing intent. Did you arrange all of this? The Taishu Saint Emperor asked. Chapter 3503. The Great Void Sage Emperor stared at the barbaric emperor with murderous intent in his eyes. That's right. I've arranged everything. The barbaric emperor said. Liu Shi has been with me for 5 stellar years. How did you manage to bribe him? The Great Void Sage Emperor said. It's simple. Because Liu Shi has been with me since 5 stellar years ago, the barbaric emperor said. Good, good, good. Barbaric emperor, you've been planning this for a long time. The great void sage emperor's face darkened. He did not expect the barbaric emperor to have been planning this since 5 stellar years ago. After sending Liu Shi to him, the barbaric emperor had been waiting for him for 5 stellar years. Over such a long period of time, the barbaric emperor did not give himself away. It was only today that the barbaric emperor made his move. Haha, 5 stellar years of patience. It's all worth it. Now that you don't have the soul-nurturing flower, how many more years can you live? Isn't it satisfying to cut off all your hopes? Ha ha ha. The barbaric emperor laughed. These words made the great void saint emperor's killing intent even more intense. His body was filled with cold killing intent and his eyes were bloodshot. He roared, "Barbaric emperor, even if I don't have much time left, I'll still drag you down with me before I die. This is the great void sage capital. You shouldn't have come. Since you're here, don't leave." Boom. The great void sage emperor's aura became even more terrifying. Divine light shone brightly like a star. The terrifying pressure caused the starry sky to tremble. With him as the center, huge cracks spread out in all directions. Terrifying. It was extremely terrifying. Even though the Taishu sacred emperor was far away in the starry sky and was at least a few 100 million miles away from the Taishu sacred capital, Lu Ming and the rest could still feel a terrifying pressure on their bodies, making it hard for them to breathe. Kill. Finally, the great void sage emperor roared and charged towards the barbaric emperor. You old fart. Let's see how you're going to kill me, the barbaric emperor shouted coldly. His body moved and the starry sky exploded. With a loud boom, the two attacks collided. At this moment, the starry sky exploded and countless cracks appeared. Boundless energy spread out in all directions, traversing an unknown distance in the blink of an eye. The great void sage emperor shone and blocked the energy. However, the asteroids and planets in the distant starry sky were not so lucky. In the blink of an eye, at least 100 meteorites exploded. In addition, a huge planet was hit by a wisp of energy and directly exploded. It was too terrifying. This was the battle prowess of a saint emperor. With a single move, it could destroy the world. Boom. After the great void saint emperor and the barbarian emperor exchanged one blow, they exchanged a second blow, then a third blow. They fought an intense battle, slaughtering their way into the depths of the starry sky. In the depths of the starry sky, planets would explode from time to time, like fireworks in the universe. Terrifying, too terrifying. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with shock. With such strength, he could kill him with a flick of his finger. What amazing combat strength! Lu Ming muttered. It's just a quasi-emperor. What's the big deal? If a true emperor were to take action, that would be even more shocking. With a single palm strike, the starry sky would explode, and even the stars would crumble. In his sea of consciousness, Bone Demon spoke, revealing a trace of disdain. Quasi-emperor? True emperor? Lu Ming was stunned. The realm after the Divine Emperor realm is called the Divine Emperor. Only those who have stepped into the Divine Emperor realm are considered true emperors. Although these people are called Saint Emperors and Barbarian Emperors, they have not stepped into the Divine Emperor realm. They are only half a step into the Divine Emperor realm, so they can only be considered as quasi-emperors. Bone Demon explained. I see. The realm after the Divine Emperor realm is the Divine Emperor realm. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. In the small thousand world, there was a realm called Martial Emperor. It meant the Martial Emperor, the emperor of the martial artists. On the other hand, a Divine Emperor was an emperor among gods. Although they were both emperors, there was a huge gap between their realms. If a quasi-emperor is so terrifying, how powerful would the Divine Emperor realm be? Lu Ming muttered, truly shocked. Boom, boom, boom. Deep in the starry sky, the battle between the Great Void Saint Emperor and the Barbarian Emperor was getting more and more intense. However, the two of them were old rivals, and both of them were quasi-emperors. It was difficult to determine the winner. Old man, it seems like you are really old. Is that all you have? Once you are dead, I will flatten the Taishu dynasty. Ha ha ha. The barbarian emperor laughed, deliberately provoking the Great Void Saint Emperor. This is the Great Void Saint capital. Since you are here, don't leave. Those above the Divine Emperor realm, attack together and kill the barbarian emperor. The Great Void Saint Emperor's old voice resounded throughout the Great Void Saint capital. Kill. Suddenly, a few loud roars were heard. A few figures soared into the sky, exuding a terrifying aura. It's the Army King and the sixth prince, someone exclaimed, recognizing a few people. The few people who had attacked were not ordinary people. They were all overlords in the Taishu dynasty. One of them was the Army King of the Grand Council, who led all the troops of the Taishu dynasty. His cultivation was unfathomable and extremely terrifying. He was one of the few people in the Taishu dynasty. The other person was the Great Void Saint Emperor's younger brother. He was known as the Sixth Prince and was also a top expert. The two of them were extremely fast. In an instant, they had rushed into the starry sky, wanting to help the Great Void Saint Emperor kill the barbarian emperor. However, the starry sky rippled like water. A few burly figures suddenly appeared. Each of them exuded an aura that was as deep as the sea, as if they were ancient beasts. These few people were all experts from the barbarian tribe. You want to kill the barbarian emperor? Dream on. We will be your opponents. The few barbarians shouted coldly. Their auras soared into the sky as they fought with the Army King and the sixth prince. Father, let me help you. With a long roar, the crowd saw the second prince's aura soar into the sky. He was like a divine rainbow as he charged into the starry sky. However, when the second prince charged out, the void rippled as well. A powerful barbarian blocked him. At this moment, the crown prince and the state advisor looked at each other and nodded silently. Father, let me help you. The crown prince roared and charged into the starry sky with the state advisor. They didn't really want to help the Great Void Saint Emperor, but they had to put on an act now. Moreover, the soul-cultivating flower had been destroyed. Even if they helped the Great Void Saint Emperor kill the barbarian emperor, it wouldn't matter. Moreover, killing the barbarian emperor would be beneficial to him. When he ascended the throne in the future, he would have one less strong opponent. Therefore, the crown prince and the state advisor joined the battle. The moment the state advisor and the crown prince joined the battle, the other top experts of the Taishu dynasty also joined the battle. For example, the Holy Thousand King and the top few kings of the 27 heavenly king mansions also joined the battle and charged into the starry sky. However, the barbarian tribe was clearly prepared this time. They had sent out a large number of top experts. When the crown prince and the others charged into the starry sky, more experts from the barbarian tribe appeared. Chapter 3504. The starry sky above the great illusionary Saint capital was in a complete mess. It was too terrifying. The barbarian tribe had mobilized a large number of top experts and completely blocked the top experts of the Taishu dynasty. There were close to 20 top experts fighting in the starry sky. Boom! Boom! The people below could only see the continuous explosions in the starry sky. The terrifying sound waves caused many people to turn pale and cough out blood. The starry sky continued to explode. All the meteorites in the area were swept away and turned into cosmic dust. One after another, violent cracks appeared, covering the entire starry sky like a spider web. It was unknown how many miles it stretched. Luckily, the great illusionary Saint capital was protected by an ancient array. Otherwise, they would have been annihilated by the shockwaves of such a terrifying battle. Countless people widened their eyes and looked at the starry sky. The shock in their eyes could not be concealed. This was the power of a divine lord above the ninth heaven. It was too terrifying and ordinary people could not match up to it. This was the top fighting force of the Taishu dynasty and the barbarian tribe. Hehehe, it's about time for me to strike. At this moment, a cold laugh sounded from the starry sky. Following which, a figure suddenly appeared not far above the great illusionary Saint capital. It was an old man with dark skin and a shriveled body. He was like a skeleton and was wrapped in a large black robe. His hair was disheveled and his face was pale. Fog constantly emanated from his body. He held a pitch-black metal bell in his hand. He looked down coldly, mainly at Lu Ming and the rest. Dang! In the next moment, he shook the metal bell in his hand and it rang. The sound of the bell was ear-piercing and visible sound waves spread out. Boom! At this moment, Lu Ming felt his soul tremble violently. It was as if he had been struck by lightning and his body shook violently. Lu Ming's face turned pale and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Soul attack. Lu Ming was shocked and quickly covered his soul with the frightening feather painting. The sound of the bell was not targeted at Lu Ming alone. It was an attack that covered a large area. Puff puff. At this moment, many people with weaker cultivations and weaker soul powers spat out mouthfuls of blood. Some even fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Their souls were destroyed and they died on the spot. It's a soul attack. Wu people, he's from the Wu people. Someone roared out, recognizing this shriveled black-robed elder. Many people were shocked. The Wu people were a long way from the Taishu dynasty. They were separated by at least a dozen universe-level powers. However, there was no doubt that the Wu people were extremely powerful, and their strength was unfathomable. They were far from being comparable to the Taishu dynasty, the Qiani sacred dynasty, and the barbarian tribe. To put it bluntly, although the Taishu dynasty, the Qiani sacred dynasty, and the barbarian tribe were also known as universe-level forces, they were only pseudo-universe-level forces. They were not real universe-level forces. A universe-level power had to have a true godly emperor to be considered a universe-level power. The Taishu dynasty, the Qiani sacred dynasty, and the barbarian tribe only had quasi-emperors. They could only be considered as pseudo-universe-level powers. However, the Wu people were a true universe-level power. Why would the Wu people appear here to help the barbarian tribe? Why are you Wu people interfering in our battle? An elder from the Taishu dynasty shouted. We're not interfering. We're just returning a favor to the barbarian emperor, the elder from the Wu people said in a hoarse voice. Then, the iron bell in his hand rang again. Clang. The continuous sound waves covered the square below. On the square, more people's bodies trembled violently. Their faces were pale. Those with weak cultivations died directly. Only those with higher cultivations could barely withstand the sound waves. Lu Ming's body trembled violently. His face was pale. What a terrifying soul attack. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. He had the Jingyu scroll, which could protect his soul. However, under this kind of attack, the Jingyu scroll could not completely protect him. The sound waves still penetrated his soul. This showed how terrifying the opponent was. Lu Ming was considered to be in a good condition. The other talents from the Taishu dynasty were on the verge of collapse. They spat out blood and looked terrible. However, the talents from the Qiani sacred dynasty were not affected at all. Obviously, the opponent was only targeting the Taishu dynasty, not the Qiani sacred dynasty. All of you, back off. Qiani sacred emperor's voice rang in the ears of Qiu Qingtian and the others. The talents from the Qiani sacred dynasty hurriedly retreated to the side of Qiani sacred emperor and the others. Haha, old man, this time you've gathered all the talents from the Taishu dynasty. Then I'll kill all the talents from the Taishu dynasty. I'll end your era. How can you compete with the barbarian tribe in the future? The barbarian emperor's unbridled laughter rang out in the starry sky. Clang. The black iron bell rang again. This time, it seemed to be targeting Lu Ming and the other talents. Its power gathered and was undoubtedly stronger. Lu Ming's face was pale. The other talents were even worse. Some of them collapsed on the ground and screamed. Damn it. Don't even think about it. I'll kill you. Roars rang out one after another. In the square, figures shot up into the sky and charged toward the old man from the Wu people. These were all experts. There were heavenly kings from the Heavenly King Mansion and top experts from the royal family. They were all 7th or even 8th level divine lords. A total of 8 people charged toward the old man from the Wu people. The space exploded, and the scene was extremely shocking. There was a terrifying whistling sound. However, The old man from the Wu people's expression did not change. He even showed a hint of contempt. He waved his hand, and 8 puppets appeared in the sky. These puppets held all kinds of weapons in their hands. They rushed toward the experts from the Taishu dynasty and slashed down with their weapons. Boom! 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 A series of explosions rang out. The 8 experts from the Taishu dynasty were all blocked. No matter how they attacked, they could not get close to the old man from the Wu people. Many people's expressions were ugly. It was said that the Wu people's methods were strange and unpredictable. It was true that they could block 8 top experts with just a few puppets. Of course, this was also related to the old man's own strength. This old man from the Wu people was definitely a 9th-level divine lord or even a quasi-emperor. The experts from the Taishu dynasty kept attacking, but they could not break through the defense for a while. Tianyi, are you just going to sit there and watch the show? Let's attack together and kill these barbarians. I will reward you greatly. The Great Void Saint Emperor's voice rang out. He wanted to invite the people from the Tianyi sacred dynasty to attack together. However, the Tianyi sacred emperor smiled faintly and said, "Brother Jing, this is between you and the barbarians. The Tianyi sacred dynasty will not interfere." You. The Great Void Saint Emperor was furious. Did he not know what the Tianyi sacred emperor was thinking? The Tianyi sacred dynasty wanted both sides to suffer. This was the most beneficial for the Tianyi sacred dynasty. Why should he interfere? The Taishu dynasty and the barbarians fought to the death. This was what the Tianyi sacred emperor wanted to see the most. Chapter 3505. Clang. The old man of the Wu people continued to attack. The iron bell rang, shaking the soul. Finally, there were some young heaven's favorites who couldn't hold on any longer. They let out shrill cries and their faces turned ferocious. In the end, their souls exploded and they died. Even the geniuses of the 9 general stars were struggling to hold on. Geniuses at the level of the 9 general stars would more or less have some means of soul defense or treasures that could block soul attacks. However, the opponent's soul power was too strong. It was said that the Wu people specialized in soul attacks. For example, the Joyo Heavenly Palace of the Taishu dynasty could also attack souls, but compared to the Wu people, it was child's play. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. They would all die. Buzz. At this moment, a layer of light spread out from the spectator stands and enveloped Lu Ming and the others. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt that the sound wave attack outside was blocked. It was completely blocked. The pressure on him lessened and he heaved a sigh of relief. The other geniuses were the same. Lan Shu. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Blue Merchant had made a move. At this moment, Blue Merchant was floating above Lu Ming and the others. A layer of light spread out from between his eyebrows and blocked all the sound wave attacks. Blue Merchant's soul was abnormally strong. He had broken through to the Divine Lord realm with pure soul power. His soul power was so strong that even a quasi-emperor couldn't compare to it. After all, the others mainly focused on cultivating their star cores and divine power, not their souls. It was just that as their cultivation increased, their soul power would also increase accordingly. The old man of the Wu people frowned and seemed a little surprised. Then, the black mist around his body thickened, and the iron bell rang non-stop. The sound waves rushed down like a tide, but they were all blocked by Blue Merchant. What a strong soul! How can you have such a strong soul? The old man of the Wu people shouted in shock. He realized that Blue Merchant's soul was far stronger than his. He was from the Wu people and was born with a strong soul. Moreover, he had a soul cultivation technique that made his soul several times stronger than other cultivators of the same level. However, his soul power alone couldn't be as strong as Blue Merchant's. Blue Merchant didn't say a word. He used his soul power to protect Lu Ming and the others. Damn it, let's see how you block me. The old man of the Wu people shouted angrily. The iron bell in his hand kept growing until it was 100 meters tall. The center of the old shaman's brows also shone with a dazzling light that fused with the bell. Clang. Deafening bell chimes rang out one after another. Sound waves continued to surge downwards like a torrential river, flowing endlessly. The old man of the Wu people pushed his soul power to the extreme, wanting to destroy Blue Merchant's soul, but it was useless. Blue Merchant's forehead emitted a dazzling light that completely blocked the soul attack. Lan Shang's current soul force was already equivalent to second-level Divine Lord Realm. This was pure soul force and did not have any divine power at all. Damn it, this person must have obtained some kind of soul treasure and had a heaven-defying encounter. Otherwise, his soul power wouldn't be so strong. Even the Wu people don't have that much soul power, the old man of the Wu people shouted in his heart. Greed flashed in his eyes. In the next moment, the bell stopped ringing. He didn't use the bell anymore. Instead, he wanted to use his divine power to kill Blue Merchant. But then, a shocking sword light slashed toward the old man of the Wu people. It was Holy Old Heavenly King. Holy Old Heavenly King slashed at the old man of the Wu people as he fought with a barbarian race expert. The old man of the Wu people was shocked. He quickly waved his hand, and a huge wooden puppet appeared. It held a battle sword and slashed out, clashing with Holy Old Heavenly King's sword light. With a loud explosion, the huge wooden puppet retreated, but it also blocked Holy Old Heavenly King's sword light. Ha ha ha, Barbarian Emperor, it seems like your plan to kill the prodigy of the Taishu dynasty is going to fail. The Great Void Sacred Emperor's laughter came from the depths of space. TMPH, I didn't expect the Taishu dynasty to have someone with such strong soul power. This is beyond my expectations. The Barbarian Emperor replied coldly. It's beyond your expectations. Today, all of you will stay here. The Great Void Sacred Emperor's voice was filled with killing intent. Boom. 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 At this moment, in the depths of the Great Void Sacred Capital, a few terrifying auras spread out. When these auras burst out, heaven and earth trembled. The entire Great Void Sacred Capital shook. So strong. Many people turned their gazes to the depths of the Imperial Palace, revealing looks of shock. These auras were too terrifying. They were not weaker than the Jun Wang, the 6th Wangye, and the others. They were all top experts. There are indeed some old monsters in seclusion in the depths of the Taishu dynasty, the Tianyi Sacred Emperor whispered, but he was not too surprised. Any force would have some foundation. Their strength could not be what it looked like on the surface. The auras that appeared now were the foundation of the Taishu dynasty. They were some terrifying old monsters, but they were usually in seclusion. Whether it was the Tianyi Sacred Emperor or the barbarian tribe, they all had such a foundation. They would not make a move usually. They would only make a move at critical moments. Obviously, the Taishu dynasty had summoned these foundations. A few figures appeared from the depths of the palace. In the next moment, they came close and killed their way into the depths of space, killing those barbarian tribe elites. The Great Void Sacred Emperor was determined to kill the barbarian tribe elites. He was furious. He was extremely furious. The destruction of the soul-cultivating flower had driven him crazy. He had to make the barbarian tribe stay so that he could vent the hatred in his heart. It's time to leave. At this moment, the barbarian emperor's voice sounded. You want to leave? Dream on. The Great Void Sacred Emperor shouted and launched a storm of attacks at the barbarian emperor. Even one of the foundations of the Taishu dynasty rushed over to help the Great Void Sacred Emperor kill the barbarian emperor. But at this moment, the barbarian emperor's body emitted a dazzling light. At the same time, the space around his body was filled with ripples. Die! The Great Void Sacred Emperor roared and punched the barbarian emperor. With a violent boom, the barbarian emperor's body disappeared in an instant. In its place was a scarecrow, which was shattered by the Great Void Sacred Emperor's fist. At the same time, the other barbarians, including the old man of the Wu people, emitted a dazzling light. In the next moment, they all turned into scarecrows. As for their true bodies, they had disappeared without a trace. All the barbarians, including the old man of the Wu people, disappeared in an instant. Only the scarecrows were left. Substitution technique. The Great Void Sacred Emperor roared. His face was extremely ferocious. Obviously, this was the work of the old man of the Wu people. They had long been prepared to use the substitution technique at the critical moment to teleport the barbarian emperor and the others away. The substitution technique was a strange technique of the Wu people. As long as it was set up in advance, it could teleport people away at the critical moment. It was really mysterious. Chapter 3506. Although the barbarian emperor and the others had teleportation arrays on their bodies, they needed time to activate them. In such a big battle, there was no chance to activate the teleportation arrays. As for the substitution technique, as long as it was set up in advance, they could be teleported away in an instant. This was how terrifying the Wu people were. The Wu people were a race that could be listed in the list of 10,000 primitive races. They were extremely powerful and were not something the barbarian race could compare to. Damn the Wu people! Taishu Saint Emperor roared. Of course, he only roared. He did not dare to cause trouble for the Wu people. Although he was already a boundary emperor, if he encountered a real divine emperor, he would probably be slapped to death. There was no doubt that he would not be able to escape. The scene quieted down. The crown prince and the state preceptor sneered. There were many accidents today. Because of Lu Ming, the Taishu dynasty had defeated the Qiani sacred dynasty and obtained the soul-nourishing flower. However, because of the barbarian emperor's appearance, the soul-nourishing flower was destroyed. At least the Taishu Saint Emperor could not obtain the soul-nourishing flower and achieved their goal. Lu Ming. The crown prince and the state preceptor's eyes flashed coldly. As for Lu Ming, they could get rid of him later. Brother Jing, the competition is over. We will take our leave. Qiani Saint Emperor stood up and cupped his fists. Go ahead. Forgive me for not seeing you off. Taishu Saint Emperor said coldly. He was unhappy that Qiani Saint Emperor did not help him just now. Of course, he would not make Qiani Saint Emperor stay. If Qiani Saint Emperor could come here, he must be prepared. There were probably many top experts in the Qiani sacred dynasty. Moreover, if he attacked Qiani Saint Emperor and the others, it would only benefit the barbarian race. If the barbarian race and the Qiani sacred dynasty joined forces, the Taishu dynasty would be in danger. Therefore, although he was angry, he would not attack Qiani Saint Emperor and the others. Let's go. Qiani Saint Emperor could not be bothered with the Taishu Saint Emperor. He shouted and left with his people. For a moment, only the people of the Taishu dynasty were left in the square. At this moment, no one made a sound. The scene fell into silence. Everyone knew that the Taishu Saint Emperor was definitely in a rage right now. He was like a bomb that would explode at the slightest touch. Whoever offended the Taishu Saint Emperor would probably end up in a miserable state. Just like that, the entire place fell into silence. The Taishu Saint Emperor stood high up in the sky, his body emanating a tyrannical aura. He seemed to be adjusting himself. Just like that, after a long while, the Taishu Saint Emperor finally retracted his violent aura. He floated down and landed on the square. Greetings, Saint Emperor. Everyone bowed. Forget it. The Taishu Saint Emperor waved his hand, and then his gaze descended onto Blue Merchant. His eyes glowed brightly as if he wanted to see through Blue Merchant. After a short while, a strange smile appeared on the corners of the Taishu Saint Emperor's mouth as he said, Blue Merchant, you really are a peerless genius. You were actually able to take another path and cultivate your soul to the divine monarch realm after your stellar core was destroyed. Not bad. Blue Merchant cupped his fists and said, You flatter me, Saint Emperor. I was just lucky to break through. Sometimes, luck is also a part of talent. The Saint Emperor smiled, and then his gaze fell on Lu Ming. He said, Lu Ming, your talent has exceeded my expectations. You can be said to be the strongest in the history of the Taishu dynasty. You have even surpassed Yu. Also, this time, you have helped the sacred dynasty defeat the Qiani sacred dynasty. I will definitely fulfill the conditions that I have promised you. I will definitely send people to search for your parent. Thank you, Saint Emperor. Lu Ming was overjoyed. With the help of the Saint Emperor, it would be much easier to find his parents. All right, all of you can leave. The Taishu Saint Emperor waved his hand, seemingly tired. He took a step forward and disappeared into the depths of the palace. The rest of the people also left. Lu Ming looked at Di Jenny. He really had an impulse to kill Di Jenny. However, when he saw Di Jenny standing beside the crown prince and the imperial advisor, he knew that he could not do it. After that, Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, and the rest left and returned to the Hidden Dragon Duke's mansion. The news of the battle spread like wildfire. It spread throughout the Taishu Saint capital, and then the entire Taishu dynasty. Lu Ming's fame was pushed to the peak. He also gained a lot of titles. He was the strongest genius in the history of the Taishu dynasty. He was also the leader of the 9 great generals. He was the youngest marquis in history and so on. In short, everyone knew who Lu Ming was all of a sudden. Many people even thought that if Lu Ming did not die, he would definitely break through the bottleneck of the Divine Emperor realm in the future and become the first person in the history of the Taishu dynasty to reach the Divine Emperor realm. Yes, in the history of the Taishu dynasty, no one had really reached the Divine Emperor realm, including the one who founded the Taishu dynasty. The Taishu dynasty had gone through 6 generations of Saint Emperors, and no one had broken through the bottleneck. Back then, Jingyu was thought to be the most likely, but unfortunately, he had died. Now, Lu Ming was also thought to be the same. However, no matter how big the commotion outside was, Lu Ming stayed in the Hidden Dragon Duke's mansion to cultivate. He did not return to the Heavenly Chaos Starfield. He stayed in the Taishu Saint capital to wait for news of his parents. This wait lasted for a year. After a year, the Taishu Saint Emperor sent someone to see Lu Ming. There was news of his parents. The Saint Emperor has investigated. Your parents might have been taken away and locked in a remote galaxy in the Dark Pine Starfield. Here is the map. An elder handed a map to Lu Ming and then left. The Taishu Saint Emperor was only helping him investigate. As for the rescue, he still had to rely on himself. Dark Pine Starfield. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly. He immediately called for Yuan Song and a few other 6th-level divine monarchs from the Dark Ape fighting race to save his parents. Lu Ming, I will go with you. If we encounter any array or soul attacks, I can help, Blue Merchant said as he walked over. All right. Lu Ming nodded after pondering for a while. Indeed, Blue Merchant was strong in soul attacks and arrays. Yuan Song and the others could not replace him. Lu Ming, this incident is very strange. I have a bad feeling about it. So, we should go back to the Hidden Dragon Star and bring Yuan Huan with us, just in case, Blue Merchant said. Yuan Huan was already an 8th Heaven Divine King and had cultivated the primitive divine body. He was strong and it would be safer to bring him along. All right. Lu Ming nodded. They immediately left the Taishu Saint capital and returned to the Hidden Dragon Star. Then, they brought Yuan Huan and a few other Dark Ape fighting tribe experts to the Dark Pine Starfield. Taishu Saint capital, deep in the palace, in a hall. The Taishu Saint Emperor was at the top of the hall. Below him, a few figures stood respectfully. Has Lu Ming and the rest left? The Taishu Saint Emperor's voice was cold. Chapter 3507. Your Majesty, they have already set off not long ago. A black-robed old man said respectfully. Lan Shong, do you want to join us? The Great Void Sage Emperor asked with anticipation. As you expected, Blue Merchant and Lu Ming have set off together, the black-robed old man replied. Good, good, good. The Great Void Sage Emperor said good 3 times. His eyes shone brightly and he seemed to be extremely excited. This Blue Merchant's soul power suddenly erupted and reached the Divine Lord realm. He must have obtained some soul-type treasure. If I can obtain such a treasure, I might be able to rejuvenate my soul and extend my lifespan, the Great Void Sage Emperor muttered. His eyes were filled with greed. Previously, when Blue Merchant showed his terrifying soul power, the Great Void Sage Emperor had his suspicions. He suspected that Blue Merchant must have obtained some powerful soul-type treasure. This was the treasure he needed the most. Whether it was useful or not, he had to obtain it. The Dark Pine Star region was very far away from the Great Void Sage Emperor. It was a remote star region of the Taishu dynasty, just like the Qin Tian Star region. Lu Ming and the rest went through a wormhole and arrived not far from the Dark Pine Star region. Then, they rushed towards a destination according to the map. With their current speed, they were too fast. They left planets behind them one by one. Before long, a huge planet appeared in front of them. This was a desolate planet. It was a dead planet. There were no living beings around it. There were no other planets or stars. It was filled with silence and desolation. It was also dark. This was very remote. If not for the map, they wouldn't have been able to find it. The map showed that Lu Ming's parents were on this planet. "Let's go," Lu Ming muttered. Then, they retracted their auras and flew towards the planet. Soon, they landed on the planet. It was dark and desolate. There were no living beings. They followed a direction and slowly searched. Not long after, fog appeared in front of them. It was extremely dense. "Be careful. I feel that something is wrong," Blue Merchant cautioned. His soul power was strong and his senses were sharp. Shoo shoo. As soon as Lan Shong finished his words, there was a terrifying air-rending sound in the surroundings. The void exploded and a few sword gleams pierced toward Lu Ming and the rest. Their speed was shockingly fast. Terrifying, incomparably terrifying. Lu Ming felt that he would not be able to withstand even one of these sword lights. He would be killed in one strike. "Be careful." Yuan Huan and the rest were very fast, surrounding Lu Ming and Blue Merchant in the middle. Following that, several 6th-level Divine Lord Realm Dark Ape fighting race members punched out. Boom! The void was pierced as the fist of the Dark Ape fighting tribe members collided with the sword light. A terrifying explosion was heard, but the sword light was not destroyed. It was only deflected. The Dark Ape fighting tribe members were also pushed back. 6th-level Divine Lord, Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, and the others were shocked. Clearly, the other party was also a 6th-level Divine Lord since he could repel the 6th-level Divine Lord Realm Dark Ape fighting tribe members. Who was it that kidnapped his parents and actually sent out a 6th-level Divine Lord to protect them? Moreover, there were several of them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sword lights retreated and charged towards them again. The 6th-level Divine Lord Realm experts were about to charge forward again. "Don't make a move. Protect the Mansion Lord and the rest," Yuan Tsong shouted as he rushed out. As though he had sensed a trace of danger, he ordered the Dark Ape fighting tribe members to retreat. Boom, boom, boom. The strength of the Dark Ape fighting tribe members was at the 7th-level Divine Lord realm. How powerful was he? As he punched out continuously, his fist force broke through the void and could kill 6th-level Divine Lords. But at this moment, one of the sword lights suddenly exploded, emitting a terrifying fluctuation that far exceeded the 6th-level Divine Lord realm. It clashed with Yuan Tsong's fist continuously. A few terrifying explosions rang out, and a violent force swept out. A huge explosion occurred on the planet beneath their feet. In an instant, magma soared into the sky and the entire planet exploded. But the lava fragments formed by the explosion were all turned into ashes under the energy of Yuan Tsong and that sword light's collision, turning into cosmic dust. Following that, Yuan Tsong's figure swayed and he retreated 3 steps in a row. And the sword light that he got also drifted back. 7th-level Divine Lord Realm. Lu Ming and the rest sucked in a cold breath. The other party actually had a 7th-level Divine Lord Realm expert. Fortunately, Yuan Tsong sensed danger just now and personally took action. Otherwise, those 6th-level Divine Lord Realm Dark Ape fighting tribe members would be in danger. At least one of them would be killed. The planet exploded. Lu Ming and the rest stood in the cosmic void. Swoosh, swoosh. With a flash, many figures in black robes appeared around Lu Ming and the rest. There were a total of 12 of them and they surrounded them. "Who are you guys? Why did you kidnap my parents?" Lu Ming shouted. "Kidnap your parents? Haha, we don't know where your parents are at all." One of the black-robed men sneered. What? Lu Ming was shocked. If the other party didn't know where his parents were, then why did the Taishu Saint Emperor say that? Could it be that the Taishu Saint Emperor was lying to him? Lu Ming, it seems like we've fallen into a trap. This is an ambush. Blue Merchant's face turned ugly. Ha ha ha, that's right. You've fallen into a trap. This is indeed an ambush. Don't think of leaving today. A cold voice sounded. Ripples appeared in the void and another black-robed man appeared. This black-robed man's aura was even more terrifying. 8th level Divine Lord Realm, Yuan Huan said with a grave expression. The other party actually sent out an 8th level Divine Lord Realm expert. Taishu Saint Emperor. Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly. Needless to say, these people were sent by the Taishu Saint Emperor. To be honest, there weren't many people in the Taishu dynasty who could send out such a lineup. But why did the Taishu Saint Emperor send people to ambush them? Why did he want to kill them? Thoughts spun in Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming, it seems like we've really underestimated you. I didn't expect that you even have an 8th level Divine Lord Realm existence by your side. That 8th level Divine Lord black-robed man looked at Yuan Huan. This was really somewhat unexpected. Originally, they thought that the strongest person by Lu Ming's side should only be the 7th level Divine Lord Yuan Huan. Because when Lu Ming submitted his merits at the Grand Council, the rest Shadowstone showed the scene of Yuan Huan taking action. 7th level Divine Lord Realm cultivation. But it didn't show Yuan Huan. They didn't expect that there was actually an 8th level Divine Lord existence by Lu Ming's side. Yuan Huan, you protect Battle Ancestor well. Leave these people to me. Yuan Huan stepped forward. A powerful aura spread out, making the entire starry sky tremble. The faces of those 6th level Divine Lord and even 7th level Divine Lord black-robed men changed drastically and involuntarily retreated repeatedly. Kill. Suddenly, Yuan Huan suddenly attacked. An iron rod appeared in his hand. The iron rod swept out, incomparably huge, enveloping all the black-robed men. Chapter 3508. Yuan Huan suddenly attacked, his aura shocking. The iron staff was as large as a planet, sweeping across the starry sky. 8th level Divine Lord, the moment he attacked, he displayed terrifying power. However, the other party was clearly long prepared. The instant Yuan Huan attacked, that 8th level Divine Lord black-robed man also attacked. A resplendent swordlight illuminated the pitch-black universe. No idea how long it was, it slashed toward Yuan Huan. With a clank, the swordlight collided with the iron staff, erupting with an earth-shaking rumble. One blast of force after another burst out, rushing into the depths of the starry sky, leaving behind one imprint after another that was who knows how many miles long. Yuan Huan and the black-robed man retreated at the same time. You all go and carry out the mission. Leave this person to me. The 8th level Divine Lord black-robed man said to the other black-robed men. Yes. Those black-robed men received the order. Their figures flickered, rushing toward Lu Ming they all. And the 8th level Divine Lord black-robed man attacked again. Swordlight shocking the heavens, killing toward Yuan Huan. Yuan Huan wanted to rescue Lu Ming they all, but the other party was too strong. He could only do his best to resist. The two instantly exchanged more than a dozen moves, while the other black-robed men rushed toward Lu Ming they all. Courting death. Yuan Huan roared, his iron fists blasting out continuously. The starry sky exploded. One terrifying fist force after another pierced through the starry sky, sweeping across the starry sky, killing toward those black-robed men. But two dazzling swordlights burst forth, the power not the slightest bit weaker than Yuan Huan. The other party actually had two 7th level Divine Lord powerhouses. Bang! Bang! Two 7th level Divine Lord powerhouses joining hands, their strength was too strong, instantly suppressing Yuan Huan, making him retreat repeatedly. Kill. Following that, the other black-robed men rushed toward Lu Ming they all. Retreat. Lu Ming they all retreated hastily, but the other party pursued closely, their speed astonishing. One sword light after another enveloped toward Lu Ming they all. Kill. Protect War Ancestor. The remaining Dark Ape fighting race members shouted, raising their combat power to the extreme. While protecting Lu Ming and Blue Merchant, they also fought with these black-robed men. These people's cultivations were too high. Lu Ming and Blue Merchant were no match for them. For a time, a chaotic battle broke out in this area, and it was a complete mess. However, Lu Ming and the others were no match for them. After all, they had fewer people and were suppressed. Apart from Yuan Huan and Yuan Song, Lu Ming had brought a total of 6 6th-level Divine Lords from the Dark Ape fighting race. However, the other party had a total of 11 people. If it weren't for the fact that the Dark Ape Battle Tribe had cultivated the Ghost Battle art, they would have been defeated long ago. Even so, they were still no match for them. They could only form a circle around Lu Ming and Blue Merchant to protect them. They only had the power to defend and had no power to counterattack. After all, those black-robed men possessed extremely powerful battle prowess. They were no ordinary people. Far away, Yuan Huan and that 8th-level Divine Lord Existence's great battle became even more intense. From the looks of it, you should have just broken through to the 8th-level Divine Lord realm not long ago. You're no match for me. Hunting sword, kill, 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 the 8th-level Divine Lord black-robed man roared. His sword light was endless. Every sword was a killing move, and its power was getting stronger and stronger. For a time, Yuan Huan was actually forced to retreat. Die. The 8th-level Divine Lord black-robed man shouted coldly. Who can you kill? Yuan Huan shouted. He used the Ghost Battle art to the extreme and raised his battle prowess to the extreme. Following that, his body swelled rapidly and turned into a giant ape. This was the primordial divine body. Yuan Huan's cultivation was extremely high. Moreover, he was able to cultivate to the peak of the 7th-level Divine Lord realm. His talent was extremely shocking. Therefore, during this period of time, Yuan Huan had already cultivated the primordial divine body to the 4th transformation. Roar! Yuan Huan roared. The iron rod swept across the sky and swept out. Clang! The iron rod collided with the other party's longsword once again. This time, the sword light shook violently and the black-robed man was forced to retreat. Primordial divine body, the other party shouted in shock. Roar! At this moment, Yuan Song and the other Dark Ape fighting tribe members all displayed the primordial divine body. Among them, Yuan Song's primordial divine body was also cultivated to the 4th transformation. The other Dark Ape fighting tribe members were weaker and were only at the 3rd transformation. Even so, their battle prowess had increased by a notch. Yuan Song was fighting 1 against 2. At first, he was completely at a disadvantage. However, at this moment, he had turned the tables and temporarily stabilized the situation. The 6th-level Divine Lord Dark Ape fighting tribe members also temporarily blocked the other party's attack. Damn it! All of you have the primordial divine body. How could all of you have cultivated the primordial divine body? The black-robed man roared in disbelief. The primordial divine body was a powerful physique secret technique. The cultivation conditions were extremely harsh. It wasn't something that could be cultivated just because one wanted to. Firstly, one needed the cultivation method of the primordial divine body. This was already very rare and precious. Moreover, even if one had the cultivation method of the primordial divine body, the cultivation conditions were also very harsh. It was understandable that 1 or 2 geniuses could cultivate it. But why were all the Dark Ape fighting tribe members able to cultivate it? Kill. Yuan Huan couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with the black-robed man. He launched a violent attack. The black-robed man kept swinging his iron rod at the black-robed man. In an instant, the black-robed man was suppressed and was forced to retreat. Hold on. Wait for me to kill this man. I'll come and save you. Yuan Huan shouted and transmitted his voice to Yuan Song and the others. As long as he defeated the black-robed man, the situation would be completely reversed. Don't worry, Yuan Song and the others replied. Lu Ming had been observing the black-robed man's attacks. Something's not right. The black-robed man's target seems to be Lan Shu. He has been staring at Lan Shu. His murderous intent has also shrouded Lan Shu. More attacks are also directed at Lan Shu. Lu Ming's mind raced. He was very surprised. He had thought that the black-robed man's target was him. Unexpectedly, that wasn't the case. This was because the black-robed man's murderous intent didn't land on him at all. Instead, it landed on Blue Merchant. He was just collateral damage. Clearly, Blue Merchant had also noticed this point. His eyes flickered, and he was also surprised. Yuan Song and the 6 6th level Divine Lords from the Dark Ape Combat Tribe blocked the black-robed man's attacks. Meanwhile, Yuan Huan's attacks were getting stronger and stronger. Damn it! The 8th level Divine Lord roared. He knew that they had miscalculated this time. He didn't expect that there would be an 8th level Divine Lord by Lu Ming's side. Moreover, they had cultivated the primordial divine body. Originally, with their strength, killing Lu Ming, Yuan Song, and the others would be easy. However, they didn't expect Yuan Huan to be here. At this moment, Yuan Huan's battle strength was extremely violent. He had already suppressed him. After a long battle, he would definitely lose. Clang! Right at this moment, the sound of a sword suddenly rang out in the distant starry sky. A dazzling swordlight was like a celestial flying from outer space. It crossed the vast starry sky and slashed toward Yuan Huan. Yuan Huan's expression changed drastically because this swordlight could already pose a fatal threat to him. At the crucial moment, the iron staff in his hand changed. It swept away several staff shadows and blasted toward the swordlight. Clang! Several deafening explosions rang out. Yuan Huan's staff shadows disappeared. His figure swayed slightly, and he retreated a few steps. Chapter 3509. A terrifying swordlight forced Yuan Huan back. Following that, the void flashed and another black-robed man appeared. This black-robed man's speed was astonishing. In a flash, he appeared not far away from Yuan Huan. 8th level Divine Lord. Yuan Huan's expression was incomparably solemn. I really didn't expect them to have such a powerful existence. Fortunately, the Lord was considerate and let us follow you secretly just in case. Otherwise, you'll be doomed today, the black-robed man who appeared behind said coldly. You? Who else? The black-robed man from before said. Me. A cold voice came from the starry sky not far away. Following that, another figure appeared. Another extremely terrifying expert. Yuan Huan's heart sank and his expression became ugly. In the next moment, Yuan Huan turned around and rushed towards Lu Ming's side. Go! Yuan Huan growled. His violent aura rushed towards the black-robed men who were surrounding Yuan Huan and Lu Ming. Yuan Huan's strength was so strong that his aura was like a wave. Those black-robed men were instantly scattered and retreated in all directions. The encirclement of Lu Ming's group also dispersed. Go quickly! Yuan Huan roared anxiously. Because the two black-robed men who appeared behind him were too powerful. They were both 8th level Divine Lords. Yuan Huan was still confident in dealing with one such person. But two, he would lose without a doubt. If there were three, it would definitely be a dead end. Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, and the rest also knew the seriousness of the matter and flew back one after another. Want to leave? Today, none of you can think about leaving. Kill. The two black-robed men who appeared behind him said coldly. Their figures flashed like black phantoms, sweeping across the universe's starry sky and rushing towards Lu Ming's group. Their speed was shockingly fast. Before they arrived, a terrifying swordlight had already slashed towards Lu Ming's group. The swordlight was shocking, spanning a boundless distance and was incomparably huge. It completely enveloped Lu Ming's group. No matter how they dodged, they were enveloped by the swordlight. You guys go first. I'll hold them back. Yuan Huan roared. He turned around and waved his iron staff, sweeping away thousands of soldiers as he attacked the two swordlights. Two loud explosions rang out, and Yuan Huan's body shook violently as he retreated. At this moment, a resplendent swordlight pierced towards Yuan Huan. It was that 8th level Divine Lord black-robed person who exchanged blows with Yuan Huan previously. This sword was too fast. And Yuan Huan had just been repelled at this time and found it hard to dodge. Yuan Huan roared and barely managed to move back a distance. However, he still couldn't completely dodge the attack. Poochie. The sword light pierced through Yuan Huan's abdomen and blood flowed out. You want to block it? Let's see how you're going to block it alone. One of the black-robed men sneered. His sword light surged once again as he charged towards Yuan Huan. While the remaining 7th-level Divine Lord and 6th-level Divine Lord black-robed people continued rushing towards Lu Ming, they all. Boom. Boom. After a few more moves, Yuan Huan was forced back again and again. Another sword wound appeared on his body, penetrating his bones. The situation was perilous. Once Yuan Huan was defeated, Lu Ming and the others would definitely die. Ha ha ha. Die for me. Kill them. Remember, capture that guy alive first. Search his body for treasures that are useful to Lord before killing him. Some of the black-robed people laughed loudly and charged towards Lu Ming and the others. Boom. Right at this moment, the void exploded. A saber light slashed out, slashing directly onto one of the black-robed people. This black-robed person had 6th-level Divine Lord cultivation, but he couldn't resist at all. He was directly split into two by the saber light, dying on the spot. Who's there? Several black-robed people roared in shock as they retreated. The void filled up. After that, one figure after another appeared. There was a total of 7 people. These 7 people were wrapped in blood-red robes from head to toe. Their faces couldn't be seen at all. Kill. After these red-robed people appeared, they charged towards the black-robed people. Moreover, their strength was very shocking. The person in the lead had a terrifying aura. He was an 8th-level Divine Lord expert. He charged towards Yuan Huan and slashed down with his saber, charging towards one of the black-robed people. As for the other red-robed people, they also charged towards the black-robed people and the battle became a mess. What's going on? Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, and the others were a little confused. Who sent these red-robed people? They actually came to help them. So many experts. In the entire Taishu dynasty, there weren't many forces that could send out so many experts, right? Moreover, how did they know that Lu Ming and the others would be ambushed here? Lu Ming's mind spun rapidly, but he couldn't think of a reason. However, they naturally wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. The Dark Ape fighting race fought back and finally blocked the black-robed people. However, they were still at a disadvantage in the peak battlefield. Although there was an additional red-robed person joining forces with Yuan Huan, they were still only 2 people. The other party had 3 people. Yuan Huan and the red-robed person were at a disadvantage. Who are you people? How dare you spoil our plans? You're courting death. A black-robed person shouted, his voice cold. However, the red-robed person didn't say a word and attacked with all his might. Universe ring. Suddenly, a cold voice came from above the starry sky. Then, golden light shone brightly. A golden collar suddenly flew out and smashed toward an 8th-level Divine Lord black-robed person. Rumble. The starry sky kept exploding. That golden collar's power was terrifying to the extreme, piercing through the universe's starry sky. Not good. The 3 black-robed people's faces changed drastically. Their voices trembled, revealing a look of horror. Then, they retreated frantically. However, it was already too late. One of the black-robed people was shrouded by the golden collar. No matter how he attacked, he couldn't break out. No. He roared. In the next instant, the golden collar smashed into his body. This terrifying 8th-level Divine Lord existence's body directly exploded, turning into ashes. An 8th-level Divine Lord expert died just like that. Lu Ming and the others were stunned. In the next instant, they discovered that a figure had appeared above the starry sky at some point in time. This figure was also shrouded in layers of fog, completely unable to see the appearance. It seemed that these people who appeared today were all unwilling to show their true faces to others. However, this figure's figure was petite and seemed to be a woman. She gave a light cry and controlled the golden collar, smashing it toward the second 8th-level Divine Lord existence. Those 2 8th-level Divine Lord black-robed people retreated wildly, not daring to resist at all. Because they already sensed that the person who appeared last was too terrifying, surpassing 8th level Divine Lord. It was very likely a 9th level Divine Lord existence. Divine Lord realm, the difference of 1 level was the difference between heaven and earth. It was instant kill. A 9th level Divine Lord was not what they could contend with at all. They could only retreat. You all hold them back, I'll kill them. That figure who appeared at the back opened her mouth, the voice crisp. It was clearly a woman. Only at this time did Yuan Huan and those red-robed people react to it, charging toward the other party one after another, wanting to hold the other party back. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.